This morning I wanted to talk a little bit about why I am passionate about balance. Kind of give you the history of Balance University in a really condensed fashion, okay? This question was asked to me actually yesterday in the middle of a class. Why are you so passionate about balance? You know, and you're young, you don't have to worry about this, you know, and I understood the question. First off, guys, let me just make some statistics here. Let me give you some statistics. Falls among adults 65 and older are very costly. We talk about that. Each year, $50 billion. This was in 2016, is spent on medical costs related to non-fatal fall injuries. $754 million is spent related to fatal falls. $754 million, all right? In 2018, we spent about $52 million. In 2030, it's estimated to be about $73 million, all right? Now, you guys hear me harp on that number from 2016, that $50 billion, right? $73 million will be spent on fatal falls alone, estimated by the time 2030 rolls around, all right? We have $29 billion is paid by Medicare, $12 billion is paid by out-of-pocket payers, $9 billion is paid by Medicaid, right? And as the number of Americans 65 and older grow, we can expect the number of fall injuries and the cost to treat those injuries to grow as well. Every 11 seconds, someone is treated in the ER for a fall-related injury, and every 18 minutes, someone dies from a fall-related injury. I had my very first client, Mr. Robert Wolfe, was a World War II veteran. He was an officer. He was captain of a minesweeper, a wooden boat, very light boat, right? So it got tossed around in those seas out there, and he said he would have the most seasoned sailors come on and they would request to go back to the battleship or the carrier because it was so rough on that minesweeper. Minesweeper made of wood, right? You can't have minesweepers made of metal. What's going to happen? So this guy was an attorney out of Wisconsin. Him and my youngest son were exactly 90 years apart in age. Right, Mr. Wolfe was 95 and Caleb was 5 years old. Caleb had to come with me to work to his session because he would get out of kindergarten and there was about an hour there before I could drop him off at daycare. So you know what? You got to go with Dad to work. Sorry, pal. That's how it is. And my youngest son's very quiet, very reserved, you know, especially if he doesn't know you. And he would sit there with his iPad. And one day I was telling Mr. Wolfe we're going to do 12 repetitions. Well, we got to 12 and I noticed he could probably do 15 or 20. So I didn't stop him. We just kept going. And little voice behind me goes, "Hey, Dad, he's done. That's 12. Where'd you come from? Why are you counting? Mr. Wolfe looked right past me to Caleb and he goes, "Come here, you're sitting by me. You're my new counter." And that's where he sat for a year. For a year, he sat right by Mr. Wolfe. And this guy was an accomplished guy, very proud guy, knew he needed some help. Unfortunately, one day I get a phone call from his caregiver. And most of the time I work in the same geographical area, right? It just makes sense. And she says, "Hey, listen, he's fallen. Are you close? I know you're supposed to be here at this time. Instead of calling 911, maybe we can get you to come and avoid that fiasco." And I said, "Sure, I'm on my way. I'll be there in 5 minutes." What had happened is he had tried to get up and you know, where the healthcare worker was, I don't know. Should have been close, in my opinion. Tried to get up. He was using the restroom. Went to get up and pushed on the toilet paper holder. Right? How many of us have done that or know people that have done that? Well, it broke and he fell. Right? And he hit his shoulder and broke his shoulder and landed on his hip and fractured his hip. All right? And so I went there and we got him up, we got him stable. Ultimately, we did have the doctor have to come, right, because he was in a lot of pain. As a result of that fall, Mr. Wolfe was gone in about 18 months, all right? He was gone in about 18 months. Now, there were a lot of things that happened between that fall, but it was just a steady deterioration, right? And what I noticed is that his confidence was gone. And I see a lot of people, when they fall, they lose their confidence. And then what happens is they try to move less because they think if I move less, I reduce the risk of falling. That's the last thing you want to do. Second thing, people stop going to certain places because, hey, I fell in this environment. I don't want to go back in that environment. Well, what if that environment was your bridge club or your chess club or pickleball, right? So you're getting less socialization too. And we know what that does. That shrinks the brain, right? And so it's just a domino effect. And then depression sets in. And this is something a lot of people don't want to talk about, but we're going to do it in a professional way. Depression is a big issue in our senior community, right? Loneliness and that quality of life, may be slipping away. And people see that and they just don't want to accept it. And that's hard, and I understand that. But the last thing we need to do is withdraw, all right? And if you see someone doing that, you are now armed, guys, with the information and the knowledge. Remember, all my sources and references are posted at My Balance University. You can go there, you can run down that list at the bottom of the page, click on the link, and it'll take you to the page, and you will see depression and falls. Right? If you know somebody suffering, print that out. It has all the information there you needed. After Mr. Wolfe passed away, I was upset because I couldn't find curriculum to study. I was looking for something that I could implement. Most of the programs that I came across, the entry point, the very first balance exercise they wanted a person to do was stand on one foot or walk heel to toe. Every one of them. And I'm thinking to myself, what I'm seeing in the field in my practice is completely opposite. Most of the people I'm working with can't stand on one foot, right? And they can't go heel to toe. So what are we going to do to help them improve their balance? And that's how we came up with the balanced position of confidence, right? In that split stance. Because you can adjust this any way you want, right? And still have just a little bit of proprioception, right? That's just a fancy word to say stable but unstable. But I can make myself as stable as I want to be or as unstable as I want to be in this position. You can adjust that. And what happens is your brain begins to learn how to balance yourself, right? There's a bunch of science there. We're not going to go through it today, but that's how I became passionate about balance. Mr. Wolfe was a dear friend of mine. And he was a great encourager of mine and probably the reason I'm here doing what I'm doing today. So with that, guys, let's get rocking. Let's have you stand. We'll come behind our chairs.